welcome to our very first FabFems Friday of the summer with a focus today on our current engineering students. I'm Trisha Berry. I am director of the Women in Engineering program in the Cockrell School of Engineering at the University of Texas at Austin, so welcome. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a chemical engineer. I'm super excited to kick off our FabFems Fridays summer webinar series. We've got a fabulous lineup this whole summer throughout June and July each Friday, and hope you can join us weekly for all of these panel discussions that will include current students, our alumni, and engineering friends from our community and our corporate partners. You can also find today's panelists and lots more of our fabulous STEM role models in FabFems. FabFems is a directory. I'll put the link in the chat here shortly. It's a national STEM database where you can find women in STEM professions all across the globe. So if you're interested in engineers or scientists who are doing particular kinds of work, you can go into that database and search for folks and find them and reach out to them and learn more about their experiences and connect with them with questions you may have. So I encourage you to do that. We also record all of these FabFems Fridays. So if you can't join in into one of them live this June or July, you'll be able to access those on our YouTube channel. We actually have a FabFems Friday playlist on our UTWEP, UT Women in Engineering program YouTube channel. We also have lots of questions like those we're addressing today, but even way more on our frequently asked questions playlists. So I encourage you to check those out as well. You may find other answers to questions that you didn't even know you had on our YouTube channel and get lots of additional experiences shared from our current students. So I encourage you to check that out. And you can also subscribe to that channel if you want to know when we've added new videos. We're adding new videos frequently to that. So that's all of my updates and information sharing because I want to get right to our fabulous panel. Today, we welcome three amazing students from our Women in Engineering program, CREWW. CREWW stands for Courageous, Resourceful, Empowered WEP Workers. These are our fabulous students that work in our office that help us navigate all of the different things that we do to support our student community, both our future students and camps, as well as our current students who are in our programs. We are excited to have them join in today. They're going to take the lead and I'm going to go off screen and let them run with this. And the way this is going to work after they introduce themselves, they're going to go through some pre-selected questions that have come in from students. And then, of course, they'll also be taking questions from you. So use that question and answer space within Zoom to ask questions, and they'll respond to as many of those as they can today. We may not get to all of them, but we'll make sure that we're answering those for you campers on our Padlet, for you incoming students on our class of 2025 Canvas group. And if we don't answer them there, you can always reach out to our Women in Engineering program through our email, WEP at engr.utexas.edu. I'll put that in the chat also with questions and we'll get those answered. So with that, I'm going to take myself off of camera. I'm going to turn it over to Jane, who's going to introduce herself and get us started in facilitating this panel. Thank you again, Sarah, Jane, and Maya for being here. Y'all are fabulous. Jane, take it away.
Thank you, Trisha. See your box, I guess. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Just to reiterate everything Trisha said, really happy you're all here and hopefully we can get a whole bunch of stuff answered for you. So with that, we'll go ahead and do introductions. My name is Jane. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I just finished my 4th year in chemical engineering. So I'm doing one more semester this fall and then I'll be graduating in December, which is equal parts exciting and nerve-wracking. So lots of things going on in my head. I'm from Sugar Land, Texas, which is the Houston area. So any Houston people in the crowd, hey, besties. And something I like to do outside of school, many things. I love to swim and play volleyball and go canoeing. So I'm very outdoorsy. I try to get outside of engineering buildings and outside of like concrete walls as much as I can. That is me. And I'll pass it over to our other two panelists to introduce themselves.
I can go next. I'm Sarah. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I will be a junior architectural engineering major. I'm from Kingwood, Texas, which is also in the Houston area. And outside of school, I like to hang out with my cats. I like to cook. I also really like Texas sports, like football and especially volleyball. Our volleyball team is really good. So that's really fun to go and watch them.
Okay, my name is Maya. I am an upcoming fourth year environmental engineering student. I'm from Corpus Christi, Texas. And one of the biggest things that I enjoy doing when I'm outside of engineering is hanging out with friends, socially distanced. We're all trying to be safe out here. But also like Jane, just going outside, hiking or just laying down in parks and soaking up the sun.
Awesome. So pretty varied experience of the panelists here, 3 different years, 3 different majors. And if you keep coming back to FabFem Fridays, we'll have more panelists on with different experiences to draw from. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started on our first question. We just have a few questions that are really commonly asked. So we'll go through those first, and then we'll start responding to any that you send in or that are on the Padlet. So the first one I have, either panelist can start, is what made you decide to pursue your field of engineering? Like what interests you about it?
So for me, it was kind of the boring answer of like, I was good at math and science in high school. And then someone like in 6th grade, my teacher told me that engineers were a good profession because they were going to be like in need, you know, there's always be a job and they paid pretty well. So I was like, okay, that's pretty practical. Let's just go with that. But eventually it became more of a passion once I started taking engineering classes, and I took an architecture class too, because at my high school, they kind of combined them. And so I kind of saw that I really enjoyed the architecture side of it and the creative side, and not just the math and science stuff. So that's what drew me to architectural engineering specifically, is I really liked that it had a design aspect and not just like structural concrete stuff like that.
For me, it was a little different. I'm from Corpus, and if you don't know, at least when I was in high school around like 2015, 2016, we had a lot of water boils. So it brought up a lot of issues about like, oh, water quality as well as like health and safety. So I'm like, okay, if this is happening in my town or in my city of like 300,000 people, what's going on everywhere else in the country? Like, it really brought up issues of like clean water access. So that's why I decided to pursue environmental engineering, because I want to help with that. And just, I don't know, bring clean water to places that don't usually have access to it.
Yeah, I feel both of those answers. Mine is very similar to both. I also, like Sarah, kind of like in high school, I was really good at math and science. I've always loved chemistry. I still really love doing chemistry. And so it just sort of felt like a natural fit. A lot of people at my high school went into engineering. And so I was like, well, you know, I know so-and-so from the class above me did this, so I'll try out chemical engineering. Once I got into college, I kind of figured out exactly what interested me like long-term about chemical engineering. I got really involved in something called Humanitarian engineering here, which is basically like a certificate program. So it's a bit more than a minor, but not as much as a major in humanitarian engineering. And I really liked that because it's a super interdisciplinary field. So I'm taking engineering classes for it, but it also has a lot of like liberal arts and humanities courses as well, all related to like how you can use engineering and logistics and project management to solve or mitigate humanitarian crises. So I've always found that super interesting. And I'm glad I kind of like found that inspiration for engineering as I got further into the degree. So kind of going along with this next, or like what we just spoke about, and I saw somebody asked about it in the chat as well. It can be really difficult to like narrow down which engineering major you want to choose, especially if you're kind of already like, okay, I know like STEM or the general field of engineering is what I want to do, but how did you narrow down, like, I think this field interests me the most?
At least for me, I spent a lot of time looking up or just like looking at the Cockrell website and seeing what each of the majors do, just like the general description of that, as well as trying to see if I could find like research that the professors do so I could get a better idea of what's actually going on inside the department. And I'm like, okay, that sounds interesting, or I have no clue what that is, or maybe that's a little bit too specific or focused for me. And that just helped me figure out like which major I wanted to go into, as well as like what direction I wanted to pursue.
Yeah, for me, it was like I kind of already knew that I kind of wanted to do something that was like seen, you know, and like that impacted people directly. And so that was like that civil, architectural, environmental category. And from there, I kind of went to kind of an event that UT hosted in Houston where they kind of talked about the different engineering majors. And they went more in depth into what each major does. There's also like videos, I think, on the WEP channel or the our department YouTube channel, and that they go more in depth in what each major does and why they're important and like kind of how they differ from other ones. So if you're struggling with answering that question of which engineering, I would recommend checking out those. And you can just find research too, like on the internet, it'll tell you, even though it might be a little bit different at UT, but you'll get the gist of it.
I picked chemical engineering because I liked chemistry, but I almost did switch my sophomore year. I was very close to switching out of chemical engineering and into civil engineering. I would say it's not uncommon for engineers to switch majors, like within and doing internal transfer within engineering. So if you're kind of like, you know, you go in as one type of engineering and you give it like a semester or full year and it's just like not for you, it's totally okay to switch and it's relatively common. I also would like to say that like whatever engineering major you end up picking, it's not like you're going to be constrained to only that like field for a long-term career. Really, once you have an engineering degree, you are qualified to do a wide range of jobs, whether that be traditional like STEM jobs or completely out of the STEM field overall. So I would say, you know, don't worry too much about which one you end up landing on, because you will still be qualified. If you want to work in a different field, you'll be able to do so. So I would say if you are like thinking about switching majors or something like that, just look at the course list. That's what ended up making the decision for me to stay in chemical engineering rather than switching to civil engineering. I was really thinking like, well, long-term, I would rather work in the civil field rather than the chemical field. But since I'll get a chemical engineering degree, I'll really be qualified to like do something in civil if I wanted to, as long as I, you know, study up a bit and work on that job. Anyway, so look at the degree plan, figure out what specific courses you'd be taking. When I looked at the civil degree plan, I saw less chemistry and I was like, well, I like chemistry, so I'll stick with chemical. It was a very like almost on a whim. I was like, okay, I'll stick with chemical, and it worked out for me. So kind of a simplistic answer, but there you go. The next question I have is, we all mentioned some of the hobbies and things that we like to do outside of school. So how do you keep up with like the things that you like to do outside of school while still pursuing an engineering degree? How do you balance all of the like homework and classwork responsibilities while still having fun, having a social life, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, it is really difficult, you know, like I won't lie. You know, everyone I think kind of has a little bit of a shock when they get to college of like, oh, I have to like time manage and like I have to do all these different things. And to me, that was really exciting. You know, I really enjoyed kind of the challenge of having to figure out how to do as many things as possible. But, you know, I had to kind of remind myself to still make time for myself and to value my mental health. But, you know, the biggest thing, there's a ton of resources at UT, and there's a lot of people in the same situations whenever you're struggling to juggle everything. And, you know, I would say like reach out if you're really struggling. first of all, but also know that, you don't have to have it all figured out. Like your first semester, especially, like you're in a new place, in a new city probably. And, just give yourself some grace if you're not able to do everything that you want to do, and just prioritize is probably the biggest thing.
I would agree. Prioritizing things is definitely the way to go. I noticed that it seemed like when I was outside of engineering, like outside of the physical place, like outside of the EER, the ECJ, time seemed to slow down for me a little bit. It allowed me to relax. So I found that like separating myself physically, like going to a different building or just like spending time in a different org allowed me to relax much easier than whenever I was in the engineering building. But that's just me. I would highly recommend just like, if you're having trouble or feeling overwhelmed, just like go outside, take a couple deep breaths, just calm yourself a little bit, because I found that to be really helpful, especially during my first 2 semesters.
Yeah, I would reiterate everything Maya and Sarah said. I'm a big believer that like probably about half of what I've learned in college has been in the classroom, and the other half is like meeting people, going to student orgs, going to fun stuff in Austin. You get so much just like, I don't know, personal growth and fulfillment from the stuff that is not in the classroom. So, take a break, let yourself go to that concert or whatever it is, because you only get to do your undergraduate once for most people. Also, it's kind of like, I think if you take a break and let your brain just like rest and percolate on whatever you've been learning in class, then when you eventually get to your like homework, essay, whatever it is, you're going to be a lot more efficient than if you had just like forced yourself to sit at a desk for 12 hours straight and work on that piece. So the more breaks you take, maybe not the more, there's a point of diminishing returns, but more breaks usually, I think, helps my brain work a lot more effectively and get the homework done faster. Very great question. That kind of talking about campus involvement brings me into my last planned question for now, and then we'll hop on to some of the ones you've all been submitting. So how does the Cockrell School of Engineering encourage students to get involved, and specifically WEP, the Women in Engineering program? What kind of opportunities have opened up to you through WEP? How are you involved in WEP? And how is it different from other student organizations?
Yeah, for me, it was getting involved in my major specific WEP org, which is like, so for WEP, they like each of the like majors have like a group. So like there's women in mechanical engineering, women in biomedical engineering, and so on. And so for me, that was women in civil, architectural, environmental engineering. And that just obviously drew me because it was girls in my major and my age, and people that, I would have classes with. And they especially were interesting to me because they offered a freshman officer position, and they would pick one freshman to like run their social media for the year and like join the officer team, which was really cool for me because I kind of pushed myself and I wanted to have a leadership position my first year and kind of jump right into like clubs. And that was really awesome for me. And I kept, being an officer with them, and I'm the president now. And, I've really seen myself grow through that. And it was really cool. And WEP just has so many resources and so much support, and all of the orgs talk to each other and they have socials together. And it's really great. There's no like dues or anything like that. So you can kind of bounce around. If you're interested in a different major, you can go talk to the women in mechanical engineering or something like that. And it's just a really good community. And it was really great being involved in that and getting to like have a special responsibility through WEP.
I was involved in WEP also my freshman year. I was part of a FIG, which is a first year interest group. And those get advertised as you go to orientation. So like, for some of y'all, it's a little later on, but it was a really great way to just meet other women within the community that had the same goals as I do, because mine was specifically for like service. So it's just really fun getting to know people, getting to know the WEP personnel as well. And yes, I'm sorry. It's a first year interest group. Yeah, and then later on I got more involved as a PAL, which is a kind of like a leader for the group, like for your major specific. And that was really fun, just getting to know freshmen and helping introduce them to the college life, as well as like what your specific major looks like. Like for me, it was what environmental engineering looks like within Cockrell. And yeah, it was just really fun. Cockrell has a lot of opportunities for you to get to know the different organizations. So chances are, if you're in the building, there's going to be at least one like organization that's just tabling or just trying to meet students. So yeah, UP also has a lot of events, and that's how I really got to know the community freshman year, because they would serve food and I'd be like, yes, I know what I'm having for dinner today.
Yeah, agreed. Basically, the way the Cockrell School gets people involved is like, as you're walking through engineering buildings or around that section of campus, you'll just see like tables lined up with student organizations. They're giving out like free food, free t-shirts, any kind of thing. And you can like go and talk to the members and kind of see what things they do in their club, whether that be like service. Some groups are technical and they actually build something. There's like race car and unmanned aerial vehicle groups if you want to like build something, whole bunch of stuff. There's like business organizations, all different types of things within engineering. I found in my first year that like they really make it accessible to start meeting people and getting involved, because I would go to like late night tutoring sessions. It was like 8 to 11 p.m. every school night. I would go to the main engineering building, which is abbreviated EER, and I would work on my homework there with a whole bunch of friends. And basically different student organizations would just show up and start like at like 11 p.m. They just start passing out like popsicles or something and be like, okay, like homework's done, everybody socialize now, which is really, really fun. Great way to like both, find study buddies, but also just find people that you can like go to class with or, start getting social with instead of just focusing on school. As far as WEP, I will explain a few things that I commonly get asked about WEP. First is that WEP is kind of a, it's a fully staffed program. Trisha and our other director, Anna, both work full-time for WEP. So it's not necessarily like a student organization. It's not run by students alone. So it's part of the Cockrell School itself, and it serves any student in the entire engineering school, or really over UT as a whole. And they offer a whole bunch of programs, some social, some more academic. So you can do a research program with WEP called GLUE, where you get paired up with a graduate student in engineering and work on their research with them for a full semester. So that's kind of an academic thing. You can do like professional development stuff with WEP. They have a whole bunch of workshops about like, how do you like fix your resume to go to a career fair, or how do you introduce yourself to an engineering recruiter, something like that. So there's a wide range of programs. If you're just wanting like, oh, I only want social stuff, right? I only want academic stuff. You can pull that from WEP. There's no, requirements to go to all events or anything like that. Just make use of whatever is advantageous to you. I love WEP, can't recommend it enough. And one thing I will especially plug is the Living Learning Community. That is WEP's program where in Kinsolving Dormitory on campus, where a whole bunch of first-year women in engineering all live together on the same floor. So that way you're like going to class with them. You see them when you're back at Kinsolving. You can go eat dinner together. It's an excellent way to make a whole bunch of friends your first year. I was in it my first year. I came to UT without any friends from high school, and that was like instant friends all next door. So can't recommend that enough. I really love that program. So that's a whole bunch on WEP. Hopefully that answered some questions, but we've also had a whole bunch flowing in. So I'm going to get started on these. One of the top ones is, do you all have access to a lot of research and internship opportunities through the Cockrell School? And how does it work, like finding those or anything like that? Either of you who have experience with that can jump in.
So I haven't personally had an internship, but I've tried to get one before. With the pandemic, it's been really difficult, I think, to actually land a job, but UT has something called Expo, EXPO, which is basically just a big job fair where engineering companies come. There's I think sometimes 200 companies that come, and this big basketball arena thing, and then you just walk around and you talk to them and you give out your resume, and so that's kind of a big event that people usually find internships at and connect with companies, and that's probably the biggest opportunity that the engineering that Cockrell has. But there's also ECAC, which is Engineering Career something Center. But so they offer a lot of similar things that Jane was talking about that WEP does, like resume reviews, and then further interviews, and even more opportunities after Expo to connect with companies. And that's definitely something to take advantage of when you're there and you're looking for a job. It can be difficult, but even if internships are really great, but there's also research. I'll probably let someone else talk about research, but the GLUE program is probably a really big one. I'll let someone else.
I've actually been looking at research opportunities, and I would say, in addition to GLUE, just looking up research on the Cockrell website or the specific department website is your best bet. So if you're biomedical, looking up research on the BME website, usually they'll have a little tab that is specifically for research, and they usually have highlights of what each professor is doing or what each group is doing. And I would say that's the best way to find research opportunities. I know the departments are working on making it more accessible, so it's easier to find, and the opportunities are more widely available and more visible. So hopefully for the upcoming year, they'll be a lot more easy to find, and just you can see them and know what's going on with research in the department.
Yeah, there's also a database for all of UT, not just engineering, called Eureka. I'll send it in the chat, but it's basically a research database. You can type in a keyword that you're interested in researching, and all of the professors who are doing that kind of research will come up on Eureka, and you can check into them, just send them an email and see if they're down to talk with you. So the next question we have, is it possible to double major? For example, could I do biomedical engineering and a business major? That's an excellent question. I can take this one because I'm actually a double major. So yes, it's possible. I exist. My second major is sustainability studies, which is in the College of Liberal Arts. So it's definitely possible. It depends on what you want that second major to be. I'm taking 4.5 years, so I didn't finish right in 4, which is completely fine. A lot of people take 4.5, 5 years, 6 years, however long it takes you to finish the degree and be satisfied with what you got out of your time at UT, take it. As long as you can, pay for it and everything with their scholarships as well. As far as business goes, business is a difficult one. I know maybe 1 or 2 people I've met have double majored in business and engineering. It's difficult because both degree programs, they have very little overlap, and they're also both very specific about what courses you have to take. There's not many electives in either program. They're both kind of you need these classes. So if you're really wanting to do business, but you're worried about finishing both degrees in the time frame that you want, you can do something called the Business Foundations program. It's a really popular program. It basically gives you like an introduction to every piece of business that you might need in a job. So you'll take like a couple accounting classes, a couple finance, a couple marketing, that kind of thing. So it gives you like crash course in business. You can do the whole thing over one summer as part of the Macomb Summer Institute, and you're with like a cohort of students who are all doing it in one summer. You can also be a part of the certificate and like just take maybe like one business course per semester or something like that. So that's also an option. I mentioned that's another certificate, like I mentioned earlier. Certificates are a really great option to kind of like tailor your engineering major more without adding on an entire extra major, because, you know, that is like, it takes extra time, it takes extra money to do a second major. So if you're wanting like maybe not to dive in quite that far, you can probably look for a certificate in it. They're really cool because they tend to be pretty interdisciplinary. So whereas a minor might be like an economics minor, you're only taking classes in that department. Whereas a certificate might be something like business and ethics of healthcare or something like that. So it's drawing from like several different fields. You might take classes in like communication school, business school, education, all different kinds of things. Can you do the certificates as a high schooler? I don't believe so. Those are like specific to UT. Those, as far as I know, they don't really exist at other colleges. Okay, let me mark that one. This is a good question. What classes and activities in high school did you participate in to be where you are right now in engineering at UT?
So for me, one that I did was really specific to my high school, so I probably won't go into that one too much, but it was basically just about construction, and like we built a tiny home, is basically the basis of it. But I was also involved in National Honor Society. I was involved in my church a lot, and I did a lot of like volunteer stuff through that. What else? Yeah. I was also involved in sports. I was a varsity track and field athlete. And then I did some volunteering like outside of school. So nothing super exciting.
My high school, I was involved in the robotics club for a couple of years. That was really helpful in showing me that, yes, I liked engineering, but no, I did not want to do anything regarding electronics. So a lot of those clubs can help you, especially in high school, help you discern what you like and what you don't like. I also did volunteering at a local aquarium, and that's where I was like, ooh, I like this. I like being in the environment. So yeah, I also did a lot of volunteering also with my church, and made me like, I enjoy helping people. So environment, helping people, that's probably what led me to the CAEE route. Yeah, that was the majority of what I did in high school.
Yeah, that is a natural fit. Our next question, this is also a good one. In the first semesters of pursuing an engineering major, is there much of a difference between the classes you take and the classes that a different engineering major might take? For example, are there basic classes that you take first? Short answer is yes. Basically all engineers, regardless of your major, have to have calculus, probably physics. I'm not sure if it's both physics 1 and 2, but at least physics 1, chemistry. Those are kind of like everybody's going to have to take those at some point. You also need some like core requirements for UT. So a writing course, a few other, like an English course, that kind of thing. So yeah, my first semester, I was taking a calculus course with other people in the living learning community that I lived in. And it was a wide range of majors, which is actually pretty nice because then you make friends with people who like, you know, you all continue onwards on your own path, but you still have friends in those other majors. So short answer is yes. I think my first semester I took one course that was chemical engineering specific, and then like 3 or 4 others that were general, which is pretty fun. The next question. I am really interested in public policy and liberal arts along with math and science. So can you talk more about how you found the intersection between humanitarian issues and engineering? Excellent question. I love talking about this one, and y'all can chime in as well if you would like to. I certainly found a lot of that intersection after adding my double major, but I know that's not an option for everybody to just like add a liberal arts major. So if you're looking for kind of something that's somehow related to like public policy, humanities, anything like that, I highly encourage adding a certificate. There are certificates in public policy, humanitarian engineering, of course, or you can do something totally different like sociology. There's one called like justice and social change, if that's kind of your thing. But if you're like, I only want to take engineering courses, I don't want to add other things, that's totally fine. You can find a lot of that through student organizations on campus. There are some within engineering. There's Engineers for a Sustainable World. There is, yeah, Maya's a part of that. There is projects with underserved communities where you partner with an underserved community in a different country, and you kind of work on some sort of engineering solution to a problem that community is facing. I did that my sophomore year and partnered with a community in India that was in like a floodplain, and they basically had like no higher ground to go to during floods. So we actually worked with that community all year to design a like disaster relief shelter for them. So clearly that is, you know, a lot of engineering. We were like building an actual disaster relief shelter, but it's also a lot of like social work, social engagement type of thing. So really interesting stuff there, and humanitarian work. Yeah, so I would say add classes if you can fit them in, add some classes in other disciplines, but if you can't, you can certainly find it through student organizations. Do either of y'all want to add to kind of like branching out from engineering?
Yeah, I can just add quickly, like Jane was saying, sometimes you can't fit it in very easily, but at UT you have to take like some core things like the writing flag, or writing classes and history classes and government even. And for me, I found a lot of those like humanitarian and social justice classes through like those. Like I tried to get the history requirement by taking one that counted for history and was like really interesting to me. And that's kind of one of the nice things about UT is that they offer so many different classes that a lot of times you can pick like which history or which writing class you want to take. Like for my writing class, I took one that was like prison literature, and that was really interesting, and it was really different from engineering, and I kind of purposely chose that one so that I could branch out. And so a lot of times you can fulfill requirements and take something interesting like you're looking for, like just to kind of pad your experience and add stuff that's not necessarily engineering related.
All right. Another question. When you apply to UT, are you able to apply for multiple engineering majors? Yes, kind of. Essentially, you put in your first option. So you do have to prioritize like one pick. And then I think you also get a second, maybe a third option, but I don't quite remember. There's the process of like getting into your major at UT. First, you have to be accepted to the University of Texas as a whole, but you're not guaranteed a spot in that major yet. Later in the year, you then get another acceptance into like your specific major or maybe your second choice major. And then if you get your second choice, but you really wanted your first, then you just have to apply for an internal transfer after your first semester. So yes, you can apply for multiple, but note that you can't obtain multiple engineering degrees. You are not allowed to double major in 2 types of engineering. That is a hard rule at UT. Another question, how do you deal with the rigor of engineering classes? A great question. I'm still working on that in my 4th year. So I'll let the other people answer and give their thoughts.
Go ahead, Maya.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, I am also still figuring that out. A lot of it is time management, and with the pandemic, that kind of like reset my whole clock. It's learning again from the ground up. So honestly, it's just trying. Like they say, just every time you stumble, just get back up. Like Jane said, if you take longer than the 4 years, that's completely fine. Like there's as long as you just finish it and gain what you need to out of your classes, that's the biggest thing that matters. So that's what I'm constantly thinking about, like, not just am I doing well in my classes, but am I actually understanding what I'm doing and how it builds into what my engineering degree or what I'm supposed to be learning in my engineering degree.
Yeah, for me, I definitely struggled early on. My first semester, I took an 8 a.m. Calculus 2, which I do not recommend, but, you know, definitely taught me some lessons. I ended with like a C+ in that class. And, you know, that was hard for me. And, it, you know, it's hard to get a bad grade after being in high school and, you know, being used to getting A's and B's. And but, you know, I think that was a good lesson for me, and it was important for me to go through that and that struggle. And, you know, there's so many resources at UT. There's the Sanger Learning Center, which offers one-on-one tutoring, like 40 hours a semester. It's like a really great resources. I use that, still, you know, struggled. But, you know, like Victoria asked if you have to be a genius at math to succeed. And, you know, the answer is no. Like, you know, like you have to pass your classes, obviously. But, you know, like you're probably going to be successful at other classes. You know, if you're maybe you're really good at chemistry, but you're not great at calculus, and that's okay. Like, you're not going to do like amazing in every single class. And, you know, I think that's part of what I like about UT is that it's challenging, and you have to learn how to learn. But there's so many resources through the Cockrell School, the Sanger Learning Center. And, you know, if you're struggling with one class, just remember like that you're not going to take this class forever. Like, you know, you're going to get to take classes that you enjoy and that you're better at later. And, you know, you just think about, I guess, what you're learning from the class and try not to focus on how much you're struggling, and just know that you'll get past it, obviously.
Yeah, I agree. I think the two like key takeaways that I learned after being here for a while, the first is to really, really lean on your friends and classmates. Nobody in the world could do this degree alone, not the smartest person. So if you have any sort of, I don't know, like complex about like, oh, I can get through this by myself, or I don't need to ask for help, like please try and check that at the door just for your own sake, because you will need to ask for help at some point in this degree. The other thing, I forgot it already, so apparently it wasn't that important. Oh, I know it. Be okay with failure. See, oh my God. And what a meta moment, because I just failed to remember. Anyway, yeah, be okay with failure, because it happens a lot. I remember the first time I failed a test in engineering, and I like left class and went to a bathroom and cried a little bit. And then after that first time, I was like, okay, you know what? It's a singular test. I'm going to like build this grade back up. Like it is still recoverable and I can still make it through this degree. So it might sound a little bit sad at first to be like, okay, I'm getting used to failure, but it feels very normal for me to be like, yeah, I didn't do well on that one, but I can learn from it and get just as much out of it as if I had, you know, aced it the first time. So get okay and used to failure, because it is totally normal. Okay, the next question we have, what are the sorts of things that you wrote on college applications to help you get into your major? I think we have either on the Padlet or maybe a different FabFems Friday, we'll be focusing a bit more on admission. So I'll just give a quick answer to this. Essentially, your college applications, there's like no magic answer, because you need to be super genuinely you, and we can't tell you how to do that, you know? So the thing I remember from writing my college application is that I honestly enjoyed writing them because it just felt like a time to be completely me on the page. Don't write anything that you're like, oh, they just really want to hear this, or like it makes me sound good. Make sure that we're seeing, or not we're not reading the applications. Make sure that those people who are reading your applications see your personality, see why you are genuinely interested in this field, and you're not just like, you know, writing a list of like the things you've accomplished, because they can find that somewhere else on your application. So use the essays as a chance to, you know, really speak to who you are, why you want to do this. Okay, I'll pass this off to the next people. Is it possible to take classes in several engineering fields? For example, if you are an aerospace engineer, can you also take classes in chemical engineering?
I mean, I would say generally, like, yes. I'm not sure about those specific ones, but at least for in the civil, architectural, and environmental department, all those classes are really closely related. And a lot of times people take them for electives. Like, I think we have like 4 classes that we get to pick as electives, and we can branch out, at least in those departments. And yeah, but I'm not sure about specifically. I would think you probably could. Sometimes there's prerequisites, which is like classes that you have to take before taking an advanced class. So you might have to look into that. But you could ask your advisor about that also if you're interested in taking those different classes.
Awesome. Another question, can you participate in the Women in Engineering program in college if you use they, them pronouns? Absolutely. We'd love to have everybody. Doesn't matter what pronouns you use or how you identify. WEP is open to every student on campus and off, really. So make use of the programs. They're super fun and helpful. Let's see. This one has 5 thumbs up, so let's answer it. If you are not in the top 6% of students in your school, how great are the chances that you will get into the School of Engineering? And what are some of the things you can do to boost your application and make sure it stands out? So we can't say for sure what the chances are. We're not admissions counselors. So if it's something that is like really sitting on your heart and you're worried about, I would say make an appointment with the admissions counselor and maybe they can give you some more detailed information. As far as making your application stand out, it's been a while since I applied, so I don't remember. I think the biggest piece of advice I can give is like those essays, make sure they feel like you. And if at any point you feel like you're just kind of like writing something because it sounds correct or like people want to hear it, then stop and take a break and come back later when you can really articulate why it is you want to go here and get out of the engineering degree. Do y'all have anything to add about like making your application stand out or anything? All right, we will move on then. Okay, this one, as a woman, have you ever felt daunted by the lack of women in the field? And if so, how do you motivate yourself? That's a great question. Just as a precursor, and then I'll let the other panelists answer. Currently at UT, and I feel like generally in the world, this is a pretty accurate figure. The field of engineering is about 30% women, roughly right now. So not great, certainly on the rise, but not great. And I feel like at least my classes are pretty represented. Like it is about 30% women in my classes. But yeah, if the other panelists want to jump in and talk about their experience as a woman.
Yeah, for me, I would say I haven't felt, like direct sexism, like that kind of thing, especially in my classes. It's pretty inviting, like it's a great environment in classes and that kind of thing. I know that in my industry and specific engineering fields, especially a lack of female representation. And for me, I've mostly seen it when talking to companies and like leadership. There's a lack of women in like CEO positions and a lot like higher positions in companies. And for me, that's kind of intimidating, but I've heard a lot of great things. Like I asked companies about their female representation whenever I talk to them at Expo and at job fairs, and usually they have really good things to say. And I think companies are doing a really good job of being intentional and making safe spaces for women, and even like maternity issues, and really creating opportunities for women to be successful and like valuing women's input. So that's probably all I have to say about that.
Within my major, it's more equally split. So it's about 50-50, or maybe there is a higher percentage of women, just barely over 50. So I really haven't felt daunting because it just feels like, oh no, I made a lot of friends within my classes just because I felt more comfortable because there were more women around. So I would say that at least within the civil, architectural, and environmental engineering department, it's just a lot less daunting because there is not really a big difference in the makeup.
Yeah, one last note on that is that for me, it has been all WEP pulling me through this degree. The Women in Engineering program is actually one of the things that like made me choose UT over a different engineering program, because having an entire like dedicated program for women and non-binary people in engineering is like pretty unique, I think. So I would say I have more women friends in engineering than men, simply because of WEP, even though like there's so many more men around. Like I've found so many women in engineering. All right, another quick question. Does the Cockrell School accept college credits from AP exams and dual credit? Yes to AP exams. Dual credit, I'm not as familiar with how it works, but yes, they do accept credit. The kind of AP credits that you can claim would be things like if you take Physics 1, Physics C, Chemistry, Calculus AB and BC, all of like core classes. So if you took like English, English language and composition, etc., APUSH, WAP, environmental science, all of those things, they can count. Essentially, the way it works is that when you are in school, like maybe your first semester, second semester, whenever you decide to claim those credits, you just go to a UT website and you link up like, I want this AP test to count for this class on my degree plan. You have to pay $10 per credit hour you claim. So if you claim like AP US History as a 3-hour history course, then you have to pay $30 to claim it, which is super dumb because you already paid for the AP test, but I don't have control over that. And as far as like, do I recommend doing that? I say 100%. Like you already paid for the AP class, you already worked your butt off to get that score on the AP test. So claim it. But if you're like, oh, I'm a chemical engineer and I don't feel great on my AP chemistry class, then yeah, maybe retake chemistry. So it just depends on you and your major. Let's see. Have you had the opportunity to study abroad? Have either of y'all studied abroad? Okay, I have, so I'll answer it quickly, but I don't want to like talk forever. I studied abroad after, well, I did the projects with underserved communities in India. So I actually went to India after working with that community for like a full year. And I got to help like work on the construction site, got to do some like social engagement and social work activities in the community. That was such a fantastic experience. And I think really unique as a study abroad opportunity, because it wasn't like go to the country and take like a course at a university or in a classroom or something. It was far more like experiential learning, kind of, figuring out like intercultural communication on the spot, working on a construction site, all that kind of thing. So cool. However, though, if you're more like, you know what, I think the classroom is my speed, that is totally valid. And there's tons of stuff available for that. One big thing UT does is called Maymesters. So essentially you finish your finals in May, and then like the next week, you're flying out to some incredible destination with a UT professor, with a whole bunch of other UT students, and you take a course there in that place. Oftentimes it goes along with a lot of like maybe homestays or a local internship, or like touring different industries that are specific to that place that you're going to. So tons of things available there. Overall, UT is a great school for studying abroad. Like I think we are in the nation, we're second in terms of like amount of students sent abroad at any given time. So a lot of people go abroad, and it's one of the most common regrets I've heard from graduating people, like, oh, if I had done one thing differently, I wish I had studied abroad. So start thinking about it now, because it is doable no matter what your budget is, no matter how quickly you want to finish school, they can make it happen for sure. Sorry, the questions are loading. Let's see, someone else can take this one. How many credit hours would you suggest taking as a first-year student? How do you decide what classes to take in upper division? Kind of like once you're choosing electives, how do you pick when they all seem really interesting? And lastly, how accepting and aware is the engineering department to student, how accepting and aware is the engineering department and students to Black and Latino and trans students?
Yeah, so for the for the credit hours as a freshman, most people suggest taking like as kind of taking it easy a little bit, maybe like around 12 or 14, like definitely don't, it's pretty rare to take like 18. 18 is like the max, or 17. But usually take it a little bit easier your freshman year. You know, you have a lot of new things happening and like a lot of stuff going on. And sometimes it's nice to be able to ease in and like just chill out a little bit and get to know your classes and everything around you. What was the other question? As far as being accepting of other people, I think, you know, I think the Cockrell School is getting better. I think, you know, the whole country is learning and trying to improve. And, you know, I think especially with programs like equal opportunity and engineering and WEP, and there's lots of organizations for minority engineering students. And, you know, I can't speak personally, but I know that, you know, myself, I'm trying to become a better ally, and I'm taking classes and trying to learn about that. And so I hope, you know, my peers are doing the same, but, you know, I hope that you can find, yes, there's like a bunch of really cool organizations and really cool stuff. So hopefully you can find a community like that.
I'm also a part of the Civil Architectural and Environmental Engineering Undergraduate Advisory Board, and we recently had a town hall where it was bringing up these issues about Black and Latino and underrepresented minorities within engineering and how their experiences are within Cockrell, and just bringing to light what's going on and how we can further like help students feel more represented and feel more welcome, and allow them to just succeed in the community here. So a lot of departments are also doing things like that, as well as the greater Cockrell community.
Yep, agreed. Trisha just said in the chat, the school is not perfect in this space, but there are a lot of efforts by many who want to make a more inclusive space for all. And I couldn't agree more. Like really the entire university is going through a lot of like social change, a lot of it moved by students. So if you're interested in kind of like changing the culture of the university, I think that is a really big part. Like student voice and student activism is a lot of what I've gotten involved in and found at UT. So it's happening slowly but surely, not as fast as we would like to see it, but it's getting better. So that's something. That is about all the time we have to answer questions. They were fantastic questions, and we'll get them all answered eventually, whether that be through Padlet or some other outlet. So thank you for asking them, and thanks for tuning in and everything. I'm not sure if Trisha is tuning back in to sign off or anything, but looks like she is.
I'm Can. Hi. Thank you. Oh my goodness. What amazing panelists that you all got to hear from. Jane and Sarah and Maya, thank you for all of your wisdom and all of your insights and all of your experiences that you shared so graciously today. Thank you to all of our students who joined in. Next week, we have aerospace engineering and computational engineering as our focus for our FabFems Fridays. So we'll have some faculty and staff and students and alums who join in to share their stories in those disciplines. So please join us for that. And otherwise, we'll see you at other FabFems Fridays. This recording will be available next week on our FabFems Friday playlist on our YouTube channel, so you can check it out there. And as Jane had mentioned, we'll get all these questions answered, and we'll share out with all of the attendees where to find the answers to all of those questions, because you all asked a lot of great questions and we didn't get to them all by any stretch of the imagination, but we want to make sure that we do get your questions answered. So we will see you all next week. Thank you again, Jane, Sarah, and Maya. Thank you.